Welcome back to the show. Yaron Weitzman, author of the brand new book, A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Era. Yaron, congratulations, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
We had you on talk about your last book, Tanking to the Top. Obviously, we had a special interest in that. This one is a fascinating read about the
Oh, thanks.
Lakers, LeBron, everything else. The Lakers weren't huge fans of this, though, were they?
You could say that. No, they were. No, I've told this story, but basically, and the weird part is, I'm still confused as to why. I haven't gotten a good answer. So like I'll give the cliff notes is that they knew about it. I met with Jeannie Buss, Lakers owner. I met with her a couple times off the record to discuss the book when I started. I only share that because she's mentioned that in interviews since. So I guess that off the record part doesn't count anymore. Um, and things were fine. Like she didn't love it. She didn't. I think if I remember correctly, like she didn't. Her phrasing was like she didn't really get it and get the idea behind it. But that's okay. Like I don't. That's fine. I don't need a red carpet rolled out for me. Um, and we did some informal stuff. And then somewhere along the line, they hired this famous defamation lawyer named Marty Singer to lead their dealings with me. And so then when that happens, you kind of cut off informal communication. And then when I sent them fact checking, they sent this really aggressive wild note, accusing me of misogyny and defamation and sexism and fabrication. But some of the arguments just like obviously I'm going to say they were ridiculous, but they wouldn't hold water. Like they would claim a quote that had previously been on the record in the LA Times in 2017 was fake, or that somebody didn't know somebody when the person told me like they were godparents. It's like things that like didn't check out, right? So when you do that, you kind of lose all standing to me. But the thing is, again, like they would say, if you asked her, she was here, hi Jeannie, she would say, there are things in the book that I didn't like, and I knew that. They hired this lawyer before they. I mean, maybe you get an like idea, maybe you hear through the grapevine, but before any fact checking was sent to them, like that's when they hired this lawyer. Like they hired this lawyer before they had any specifics. So I don't know. I don't know what happened here.
Well, it's pretty clear from our reading the book. This is a really well researched book. You spoke
Well,
to a
thank you.
lot of people about it, and to me, what was interesting is when you read the title, it's not misleading, but the book is more than about LeBron James. It's
Yeah.
about the era of LeBron in Los Angeles. When you started to figure out this is the book that I want to write, was the book supposed to be something different than it ended up being? Did it evolve, or is this kind of where you were from the beginning and it ended up exactly where you wanted?
I think it's where I were. Honestly, I was helped. Like I had to, so I finished the book. I'll go to the end first, but I finished the book originally on the Bronny stuff. Like LeBron's first game with Bronny was sort of my ending. I was there and went in on that. And then the Luca trade happened, so we had to open it back up and convince them to let me do that. The Luca trade, at least to me, served as like a good bookend. Like, oh, the LeBron Lakers are done. So it kind of worked, right? And even the selling the team, it's sort of like I call it LeBron Lakers. It's also partly the Genie Lakers, the Genie era. It's like the LeBron Genie era, and she's her selling the team too. So I would have loved to put more in that. But I feel like, when you write a book in real time, to try to hit a moving target. But I feel like we kind of did okay with that, like so the answer to your question, that kind of is what I was looking for. Kind of is what I was interested in doing.
It's funny for the talk of Genie and LeBron, Magic's role in this all entertains me at times. Uh,
Yeah,
the 2017 draft in Magic. I mean, I just kind of joke about his tweets all the time, but then you go back and
yeah.
read this book, and you have a scene in here that Jason Tatum never got a workout. Is it this draft day thing true with Lonzo Ball?
Which part? Which part?
The playbook thing?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's in there. Yeah, I'm so people haven't picked up on that. It is. Yeah, it is. It's literally it's the Kevin. It's from the Kevin Costner classic draft day, right? Where they where they put what the coaches are starting to think that he wasn't listening. He wasn't paying attention to scouting reports and things, and they so one coach, guy Clay Moser, comes in and says it's a locker room and goes, what is I think it's Russell Westbrook. What you know about Russell Westbrook? And it's like oh, he does this, he drives, and he goes, well, if you read your scouting report, you would know he goes left. That's what he knows. He goes left. And Lonzo Ball says, I did read it. And he said, no, you didn't. And I'll show you how I know. Gives him his scouting report. And at the end, this is the draft day thing, the Bo Callahan test. He pulls out a $100 bill and shows them, and he didn't have it. And the whole locker room starts laughing. And it's like, yeah. So, yes, that is true. And it's kind of wild. And I love when you get stories like that in books. To me, like, that's the stuff that sports books are great for.
How integral was Magic Johnson to this LeBron era in bringing him here and having a say in the makeup of the team?
I mean, the Magic part is fascinating because, like, I think Genie brought him in thinking like this is the savior. Like, I got to control the team now. I'm bringing him in. This is Magic Johnson. I distinctly remember. It's funny, random memories you have. I remember Stephen A. Breaking out of his radio show, like kind of when he gets like, "Oh my God, the Lakers hired Magic!" Like this was a big deal, and it was sort of a branding thing to show like the Lakers are back. We were in the darkness, the Jim Bus years, and we're back. We have Magic. This is we're back. And the part that's funny is it was a disaster. I mean, there's okay. He is not qualified, or he not should say qualified. He had no interest in doing the job, right? But he wanted it both ways. The thing about Magic is like you can be the ceremonial guy, right? If you're willing to be a little hands off, you can't be ceremonial, big picture guy, and also be in there trash talking Zubac and saying he's soft or chewing out the coaching staff after a loss in a preseason game, right? Like, you can't have both and all those things. That those are things he's doing, right? So that's the issue. Part that's funny though, it's interesting, and honestly, I think LeBron and his group deserve a little credit. Is like when someone close to LeBron told me Magic had nothing to do with LeBron coming to LA, even though Magic went on and told the story often, like he went on Jimmy Kimmel and all the other places, how he was outside LeBron's door at midnight or 9, I guess LA time, so 9:01. You ready to go and give him the awesome pitch and the smile and all that. And LeBron sort of went out, they went along with the story almost out of respect. But like it really had nothing to do with it. So, and I think we forget like that press conference, or I shouldn't even say that he called the press conference. It was unofficial, where he just resigns on the spot and walks out. Is it's an incredible moment. It's just incredible.
There's so many different directions to go here. The personalities involved, the situations, off court, on court. I got to ask about Russell Westbrook. How did
Yeah.
Will Smith screw this all up?
The that's so funny. I mean, I wouldn't say screwed up. I would say I took an already fractured relationship and dropped it over his leg, right? Yeah, the background here is, so this is
At least he didn't slap anyone.
right. Well, that's ironic.
Right
Okay, so
after it.
it's 6 months after it. Okay, so the background here is Westbrook comes in. It's a disaster, right? It's a disaster that year. Awful. That all season, LeBron's asking him, pushing the Lakers to trade for Kyrie Irving, and the only way that could happen is in terms of the NBA salary cap, like it means trading Westbrook. So Westbrook knows that. Everyone knows that's what LeBron's saying. He's saying trade Westbrook, and Westbrook feels like LeBron's being two faced. So they had, and let Russ be Russ. He's always saying things like that, all that. So they have this. The Lakers do something called the Genius Series, which is very Lakers, and they bring in people like Elon Musk before he was this Elon Musk, and Kendrick Lamar, and Dwayne the Rock Johnson, guys like that to come talk to the Lakers about, I don't know, being famous and all that stuff. And they're bringing in Will Smith. So I think they're 0-3 to start year 2 of Westbrook's tenure, and Darvin Ham, his first year, goes, I'm going to go out and get Will Smith now. Okay, goes out. And LeBron's like, okay, guy, I guess he's frustrated. I'm out of here. You guys got this. And Anthony Davis follows him. Westbrook's like, are we all going? And Patrick Beverly tells him, no, you can't go. You don't understand. They're different than us. They want a title here. We're different. And to Westbrook, this is like an affront because his mind, I'm a future Hall of Famer. I'm a former MVP, Mr. Triple Double. I'm a great, all-time great. And eventually, I don't know how this I didn't get. Darvin Ham somehow gets LeBron and AD to come back in. I don't know how he did that. Honestly, it'd be fascinating to hear. Will Smith comes in. They do a speech. It's 6 months after the slap, which is also kind of funny. They do the speech, and then Will Smith goes, does anyone have any questions? And one hand goes up again and again and again and again. And it's LeBron's. And the way it was described to me is Westbrook sitting there just like thinking, like angrily, picking at a bowl of fruit. You could see the steam coming out of his ears, and the idea being like the guy who didn't want to be here now has all these questions, and just being played into this idea that LeBron, there was a disingenuous to LeBron, and Westbrook told a teammate, I hate that fake bleep. The funny part is the Lakers posted a picture with the team and Will Smith later on. And at the time, it got a little play, the idea that Westbrook didn't seem to have a smile on his face. But if you look at it now, you see it. And it's like now it's clear there was more of a story there. So, yeah, it killed the relationship, or I should say it just illustrated the issues at the heart of the relationship. The part I find interesting is this story got picked up a little bit. And I found most of the reactions were like, yeah, Team Russ, LeBron's a phony, get him. And to me, that was sort of symbolic of how LeBron struggled to connect with the LA. Like the idea that it was LeBron's fault that the Russell Westbrook experience in LA went poorly is nuts. Like that was Westbrook. He played horribly, he couldn't hit a shot. He was headstrong. He refused to adjust his game. We've seen this happen now with him. I don't know, team number 5. Like this has happened multiple times uh, with him in teams. And the idea that like this would be put on LeBron, to me, it was interesting. It was sort of telling that there's just something about LeBron that NBA fans, but LA fans in particular, just haven't connected with.
As you research this book and talk to people, did you find that does LeBron fit in LA?
In terms of the city or in terms of the team?
Both.
It's that he's famous, and it's a city known for famous people. I say that not as a joke, like that's a real thing. Kind of like how
Right.
your famous people talk about how they like walk around Manhattan because you can kind of just walk around and not be completely bothered. The thing that was working against him and that he's fighting against, lowercase f, is like the Kobe thing, right? So that's the key background here is that LA loves, and that's not even the right word, right? Kobe always did. And then obviously post death, it's even a different level of emotions about it. And LeBron and Kobe, towards the beginning of LeBron's career and toward the end of Kobe's career, they were sort of pit against each other often. Definitely commercially, right? And even like debates, like who's better. It's still too bad that we never saw the two of them face off, excuse me, in a finals. And it wasn't just like defending Kobe meant defending like the Mamba mentality, right? His way was I shoot over 4 guys. I'm not friends with other players on other teams. I care about this. I act a certain way. And honestly, him and LeBron were really opposites, like really opposites. LeBron passes if a guy's open, he's gonna pass to him on the final shot even, and is friends with guys on other teams, and just everything about him were different. And so it became like if you are a defender of LeBron in those Kobe versus LeBron battles, in quotes, you were defending Kobe in a certain way where you were kind of taking shots at LeBron and the way he carries himself. And I think that's something that it's different, right? I think that's something that's very different, and that they have to condition themselves. When LeBron got there, I mean, it's wild, right? LeBron's an all-time great. He signed there, and there was a lot of celebration, but some murals with their face too, right? Like LeBron murals with their face with Kobe. There's literally not another team in the NBA where if LeBron joins them, it's not 100% approval, universal acceptance, right? If you want to go back a weird clip and even read the stories, is when LeBron passes Michael Jordan for third in the scoring list his first season in LA. The game's a dud. Like they're trying to make it an event, and it's just not one. It's just there's no connection there. And I think the other thing that's going to hurt LeBron now going forward, and this is through no one's fault, is the fact that his highlight there happened in a literal bubble during a pandemic when there's no parade, and like it robs fans of this connection point, this emotional connection point that I think fandom is built on. Like I was in LA promoting the book like last week, and my Uber driver was talking to me about how like in the 80s he cut school to go to championship parades, right? These are the things that like fandom is built on. And LeBron, again, this is like I almost feel bad about it. Like this won't exist. And I do think there's going to be repercussions in that for 20 years down the line. People are trying to think about LeBron and the way he's remembered and thought about within that city.
Well, that's one of the things that's fascinating to me is you have one of the guys who's arguably the greatest player in the game.
Yep.
Different people have different opinions on it. But the fact is he went to a city despite having his championships, being, a hero in Miami and being a hero in Cleveland. And he went to LA and he is still struggling to get out of the shadow of somebody else.
It's the only, I guess, even in like Chicago, I don't think that would happen. Maybe to compare him to Jordan, but like I don't know, I guess they're so starved to be different. Like there's nowhere else where that would happen. Literally, there's nowhere else where it wouldn't be like, oh my God, we have LeBron. And not just for 2 years, 8 years. This is going to be his, like, I think I joke that this is going to be a trivia question that people get wrong in 20 years is like, which team did LeBron play his longest consecutive stint for? And it's the Lakers. It's 8 seasons. That's the longest. Like
doesn't feel like
it doesn't, right? It's different. There's just something off about it. And it's like not even a criticism. It's sociologically interesting is kind of the way I'd put it, right? It's really interesting.
You write that the LeBron Lakers story is much about narrative control as basketball at times. And, you include moments of real tension, injuries, early playoff exits, coaching turnover. How much was instability? How much of that instability was about basketball and how much of it was about ego and power?
I think a lot of it's the latter, right? I think that leads to it. I mean, it's kind of like the way you think about this. You get asked them these like you do this, book tour, and it's get asked question. The way I kind of summarize the book is, LeBron's he won a title, so you have to say LeBron's tenure in LA was a success, but it was a success. And the but is again going back. If I told you if I told you when he first joined, he'd spend 8 seasons at least here or there in LA, and be healthy from basically all of them. You would say, oh my God, forget multiple titles, more than one finals run at least, right? We'd expect more than that. And it wasn't that, and it hasn't been that. And so the question is why? And to answer your question, I do think that's a major part of it. I do think, you know, because you look at what leads to some basketball decisions. Well, that might be why certain guys are in charge, and why is Magic Johnson in charge? Because of personalities and internal dynamics that really have nothing to do with on the court, but has to do with who Jeannie Buss trusts and who she doesn't. That's how we end up with Rob Pelinka, and maybe Rob Pelinka is not making great choices. And then Clutch wants this, and LeBron wants this, and are we worried about why don't we hire Ty Lue? Should we hire Ty Lue because he's a great coach? Or are we a little worried that maybe he's a LeBron guy, and that worries us that having another LeBron guy in the building in 2019 is not great? So I think that's a big part of it. The way I mean, this is stuff in my other book too. I love this as a fan. I want to know this. Like I'm a huge Mets fan and baseball and football. This stuff I want to know. And when I
I'm
cover
sorry.
sport at basketball, what was that? I'm sorry. Is that what you said?
Yes, I'm
Believe me,
sorry.
I know. Believe me. Um, um, it's like I want to know. Show me this stuff, and it's I try to look at my job. The stuff behind the scenes that we're not seeing, that's impacting the stuff on the court that we do see. Right? I'm fascinated by that, and that's what I always am trying to unpack. And so, to me, that was a big part of this.
Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, pick swap. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's funny. So I got to be. This one's been misinterpreted, and I think that's as a writer, that's on me. So I guess I'll tell the story. I'll just tell it straight because this is a sensitivity of hers and theirs. So, and I think they'll be understood. Okay, so it's the Anthony Davis trade negotiations. So this is the summer, right? So Magic's already out. So it's Rob Pelinka's leading negotiations with David Griffin, who's the new GM then at the Pelicans. It's back and forth, and then they're having negotiations. And at one point, I'm going to make sure I phrase this properly. David Griffin, so I want to get the perspectives correct. David Griffin comes in after getting off the call with Rob Pelinka and relays the following stories to his front office. So David Griffin's telling his front office that David Griffin just had the following conversation with Rob Pelinka. Let's talk about pick swaps. And Rob Pelinka says to me, okay, Jeannie Buss doesn't know what pick swaps are. And David Griffin says, okay, so why don't you explain it to her? And Rob Pelinka says, well, how would you explain it to her? And the way and I think I failed in writing this, but the way the front office took it is they start laughing, and I think they start laughing at Rob Pelinka's expense, not Jeannie Buss's. The understanding of my friend doesn't know how. I guess that's how I phrase it.
And of course they take it the wrong way. And so.
Correct. And the defense is, well, people say, and GMs do say this about owners all the time. Like it's kind of like we all do this. I have to check with my boss. It's a negotiation tactic. My owner. That said, all I can say is the way the Pelicans front office took that, or the Pelicans front office, was to laugh because they believed that a GM might not have been fully aware of what pick swaps were. That's all I can say.
Is Rob Pelinka in over his head, or was he in over his head? And how responsible is he for even as you opened up the book, Luka?
So a couple questions. So a couple answers. At the beginning, yeah, he made a mistake. So Rob Pelinka, it's interesting. He was brought in to sort of be the agent to Magic's inexperience, right? We have Magic as the inexperienced guy. We're bringing in Rob Pelinka. It makes sense on paper. You bring in the agent who knows the cap, all that stuff. He was miscast. That was not his thing. Rob Pelinka was never a cap expert. You can be a successful agent. It sounds funny without knowing the salary cap like that. Like especially if most of the guys you're negotiating are the biggest stars anyway. And back then the CBA was a little less complicated. So it's like negotiating. And if you have a specific cap question to somebody in your office, you can go ask. So that's normal. The idea that he was coming in to be the main cap guy was wrong. And I mean, this is in my reporting. In the Anthony Davis trade, he messed up the salary cap. There was a sequencing of events where the minutia doesn't matter, but basically they should have officially they should have agreed to the trade before the draft and officially executed after the draft. And that would allow them to save money. They were trying, I mean, it's a good story. They were trying to pursue, that's the summer Kawhi Leonard, which we're all aware of now, but the summer where Kawhi Leonard was a free agent. The Lakers thought they had a shot at getting him after NAD, right? Adding him and AD to LeBron. But to do that, they needed max salary space, and again, this is quote, lack of better term, public record, but they messed up the sequencing, and because of that, they had to trade a second round pick. I think it was to the Wizards to get off of somebody, to dump somebody. And on top of that, they then had to ask Anthony Davis to waive his trade kicker in his trade. It was like a $4 million trade kicker. And that led to, so Clutch's response was, we'll do it. If you get Kawhi, fine. But if you don't get Kawhi, we're waiving his trade kicker only if you promise us that you'll re-sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So it's like an interesting example of how these levers get pulled. To answer Rob Pelinka, at the beginning, yes, he was, I think, miscast more, I would say, more than in over his head. He's been better since. I also think depends how you use it. Like a big part of the job is managing up. Like a big part of the GM job is managing up. Remember once a GM once told me like there was a trade where everyone assumed this person didn't do it. And the GM told me that maybe that's true, but it's still on him because he wasn't able to convince his owner that it was a bad idea, right? And like that's part of the job. If you can't make a good case, then you're failing. So Rob Pelinka is great at that. It sounds like I'm taking a shot, but it's really not. Like it's a true skill. I think a lot of the basketball stuff there, a lot of people would say he is not great on it. Like some of the scouting or some of the building out a front office, running a basketball operations unit. But I mean, there's a bit of a results business. Like, so we said the Luka trade, you can argue it fell into his lap. I guess it did, but he executed it and he pulled it off and he somehow did it without like giving up everything too. So, kudos to him on that one.
Last one for me. What did this book teach you and what it'll teach your readers about the modern NBA? Not just as a sport, but as a stage where fame, family, and business collide.
That it is a bit of high school. That they're like, it's complicated. And again, like they're ego and personalities and all that stuff, all the interpersonal dynamics can really have a real impact on team building and how teams are run and often get in the way, right? Often get in the way of success.
In looking at the time that LeBron's been with the Lakers, do you think that he thinks it was a mistake?
That's a great question. The answer to that is like, I never got one, and I don't know if he has one. Like, it's unclear what the specific reason was for him going to Lakers. Or maybe a better way to phrase it is, excuse me, if you look at his previous decisions, he leaves Cleveland for Miami the first time for a very specific, singular reason. That's to win, right? He wants to win titles. He then goes back to Cleveland for a very specific, singular reason, bring a title to Cleveland, correct the narrative, fix that narrative from the decision, be the hero. LA is kind of all out over there because he joined a team, remember, that was not ready to win, which was different for him. He ended up, he said he was okay with that. He really wasn't early on, but he said he was. Not Hollywood, but like he's kind of punted on that a little bit too. He did Space Jam, but it's not like he's in a movie every year. And it's not like he's not a big time. I mean, they have some content stuff, but so does Kevin Durant. Everybody does that now. Like it's not about that. So I think it was a mix. I think it was that he wanted to, the LA weather. His wife wanted to move. He thought it'd be good for his kids and the school system. School system, like the basketball programming and there. So, like, does he regret it? I still don't really know why he's out there, right? Probably not, because it is a thing where, like, at some point, how many teams could he actually be on? Like the Lakers, the Cavs, and the Knicks. Is that really it? I guess he could have chosen a random team and it would have worked. But LeBron was never going to play for a random team. Look at the teams he's a fan of. Like he was Knicks and Cowboys, and he's into the iconic teams. He wasn't going to do it. So again, I guess like you want to say he could have gone east to New York, but that's a different animal. It really seems like Cleveland and Lakers are really it. So does he regret it? It's a great question. I'd probably say no, but he probably has regrets about what's happened there.
All right, Jeff, any more before I ask one question on
Go ahead.
All right, I'd be remiss. We're a Philly show.
Go hit me.
The person who broke tanking to the top. What are your thoughts on how the Sixers have turned out a decade later?
Well, not great, right?
We could do a whole show on that one. I know. I shouldn't ask it in a minute at the end.
No, it's all good. I would say, I say it's not as like a bragging point. I think some of the Joel Embiid stuff in the book has aged well, right? In terms of being a little in terms of how that would go, which was not like the intent. But I think if you read the book, I feel comfortable saying, and I'm patting myself on the back. If you read the book, I think you then understand how it's ended up where a place where this guy who's an MVP, I mean, is he gonna be the first MVP to never make it out of the second round? I think historically looks like it's gonna be the case, right?
Unless the young guys marry him.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it seems like we're done. It seems like the book, it's closed on the idea of him being an all NBA player. Like it seems like unless even now, was it 20 minutes somewhere? You know, we've hit a new area. Even, and that big story over the summer from ESPN, which was really interesting to me, like that read like, oh, this guy is almost like looking back, right? It feels like it's done. So that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's I do sometimes like the Hinky stuff is fascinating. I never know what to make of him or it and just all of it. Like I always use the analogy that it's unfair to fully judge him because, you know, if you hire a contractor to renovate your house and then you yank him off halfway through and replace him with 5 different people, and then like if you
Couple
can't
of
fully judge,
burner
right?
phones.
Exactly, right, exactly. So you can't then you can't judge the final product and like say, oh look, you failed. But part it goes back to the Pelinka thing, right? Managing up is part of the job, and figuring out how to stay in power is part of the job. And he really had some blind spots, and not ones where it's like he was a it wasn't like an innocent victim. He had some blind spots in terms of managing up, in terms of not understanding the need to surround himself with people who had different perspectives. Like to me, it's still baffled. I'm still baffled to this day about how he never brought in anyone like that. So I guess I'm not surprised. I should say I'm stunned. I thought they would have broken through. It doesn't mean winning a title. If you would have told me when I started this that they would never, you know, the process started by tearing down a team that had gone to the second round by trading Drew Holiday. And if you had told me how many years later now, or 12, how many years later now, 10, 11, 12, whatever that is, 12 years later, they still haven't gotten past the second round and Drew Holiday still is like playing well, I would have been, I'd
And
be
won a
stunned.
championship.
Right. I would have been stunned. And it doesn't look good. So, but I do think there's some hope, not just the young guys. I think it seems like they've turned over the keys and sort of the personality of the franchise to Tyrese Maxey. And I think that's a smart choice and one that's going to pay off and maybe help break things a little bit just in terms of feel and vibes.
Here's my own thoughts on your last 2 books. It is the through line to them is how to run an organization. It's not just about the history and the entertaining stories, of which there are tons of them, which even you had to, like, your eyebrows had to be raised when you would hear some of the things that you then reported. But it seems to me that if you read these closely, what you find out is how to run an organization, how people interact with each other,
Or how not to run an organization.
exactly. And I think that's an important thing, that these books have value beyond entertainment. They have value as educational tools for people that are in the profession.
I appreciate it. No, I get, and maybe it's like I always wonder if it's like I'm being drawn to the wrong things, but I'm just fascinated by it. I really am. I think there was a review or for Taking the Top somewhere called it like an HR melodrama, which I'm like, oh, that's kind of perfect actually.
That'll be
again,
an
maybe that
section
doesn't.
at Barnes and Noble.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if that's like that'll be my next. You know, Amazon has all these random categories that make you feel good on. Like you could be #1 in like American sports sociology. So I'll be #1 in HR melodrama. You know, that'll be good. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, we always wonder what, and we know that most times authors don't like to talk about what their next subject is. But do you have an idea?
I genuinely do not. I genuinely do not. I wish I genuinely did. And I would, maybe I wouldn't share it. I don't know if I would, to be honest, but I genuinely do not have an idea. I don't know.
Well, when you have it, we look forward to talking about that with you. Yaron Weitzman, thanks for giving us some time to talk about the new book, A Holiday Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers, which is out now everywhere.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. That was fun.